Welcome to my second video for the Chess.com YouTube channel, and again I must thank Chess.com for letting me do these videos. Feel very honoured, and the idea of these videos: have a bit of fun, teach you a bit of chess, and just enjoy ourselves really. And we're continuing with this mini sort of couple of videos I'm doing on the King's Indian defence and some of my favourite games in the King's Indian defence, and this all stems from a dream I had about Korchnoi, and it was a dream on the chessboard. Fortunately enough, I wasn't dreaming about anything else, but I was dreaming I was playing Korchnoi in a King's Indian defence, and Korchnoi was a famous King's Indian defence killer, and I was standing up for the honour of the King's Indian defence. And here again I'm going to show a great game I think that was played in the King's Indian defence. Now the two players in question are both Russian players we have, and they're both very famous. Now Averbakh was born in 1922, and Averbakh is the oldest living Grandmaster in the world at the moment, so you can probably work out just how old he is by being born in 1922. He was Moscow champion in 1949, and he was quite famous for his endgame play. He was an endgame specialist, written some brilliant books on the endgame which every chess player should have in their collection. His opponent, who's our hero today, is Kotov, and Kotov, Alexander Kotov, was another player from Russia, born in 1913, and he was famous, I would say, for his chess, of course, but for some of the books he also wrote. He wrote Think Like a Grandmaster, which is an all-time classic. Again, another book that everyone should have in their collection. And Kotov was also Moscow champion in 1941, and we see him here create a piece of art at the board. And anyone who says that chess is not an art, well, I defy them after looking at this game. This game is clearly a piece of art, and again it stems from the King's Indian defence, which is our hero opening at the moment. The game starts in standard King's Indian fashion. Now d6, okay, is another way of entering the opening. A more common opening way to get into this is with g6 immediately, but it doesn't matter so much. We get to a typical position quite soon, and well, okay, things are a little bit different here, but it's the same setup as in the King's Indian. After knight bd7, Black is aiming to play e5 and g6. So it's not your typical King's Indian defence way of starting, but it shows you that there's a number of flexible ways of entering into this. It's still the same structure, and that's what we're really going for. After knight c3, e5. And this is kind of a different way of entering into it, because instead of going bishop g7, Black first puts his bishop on e7. But again, the structure in chess is the most important thing. And I think people nowadays, you get too carried away with the actual opening moves rather than the pawn structure and what ideas you should be playing. Now, in the era of these two players, much more important to know the pawn structures and to know the plans that you should be trying to achieve than the actual moves that you read in a book somewhere. Ideas more important than remembering moves parrot fashion, should I say. Parrot fashion memory is you remember something like a parrot would and you repeat it, but does the parrot actually understand what it's saying? And I find too many beginners do this now. They play moves that they read about, but do they actually understand them? Well, this is kind of the thing I want to show you in some of these videos, that if you know the structures, and this is a King's Indian defence structure we're going to reach, you should know the ideas, and I'm going to try to help you understand the ideas. So White plays in a Korchnoi way by playing very traditionally and gaining a strong centre. Black goes bishop e7 first, but we'll see later on that this bishop quickly gets moved around to g6, and the bishop is better on g7, should I say, where it hits towards the centre. Queen c2, rook e8, and now the bishop comes around to f8. Now the loss of time is not so important because it's a closed structure, and in closed structures you have time to maneuver. Rook to b1, White going for a similar plan we saw in my first YouTube video with b4, so Black puts a stop to that for now. White closes the centre down, Black takes up the c5 square. So you have to combine attack with defence, and the c5 square is a very important square in the King's Indian defence pawn structure. And this is what we have here. this King's Indian defense pawn structure where white has this kind of like triple pawns with more space, but black has managed to play e5 and get his knight to c5. Bishop to e3, and let's just go on to where it gets interesting. So g6 will be coming up very shortly. Here we go. And now knight d2, rook b8. So black in no rush to play his moves, and we're going to see the race occur very quickly. Black trying to keep the queen side closed because he's weakest on the queen side, so he wants to keep the position closed over there. Now white just taking his time, black taking his time. Look at these two king moves. These are the kind of moves that you see a lot by strong grandmasters, especially around this era, moving on to the days of Petrosian, ex-world champion Petrosian. Just moving the king out of the way, because later on, when black tries to go f5, the king will be better placed here. And there's no rush because you have a locked pawn structure. When you have a locked pawn structure, you can take your time. You don't have to rush with your moves. And eventually, as black understands this pawn structure, like at King's Indian defense, black has to get ready to play f5. And this is one of the main reasons he puts his king here, so his knight can come here to prepare f5. And eventually we get this structure with f5 occurring. So let's just move on to okay, well, you can see white's trying to close this down, black's trying to open things up, white trying to keep everything closed. And here white tries to take over the initiative on the king side, but black now gets this pawn move f4 in, and this is more of the typical King's Indian structure. But white, if white can keep everything closed, it's who gets initiative on the king side. Bishop to f2, rook to f6, and now here white shows a complete lack of danger, and his next move is a critical error. And I want to show you this kind of beautiful game because of what occurs next. But whenever your opponent is playing moves like rook to f6, you should always ask yourself one critical question: why did my opponent play that last move? What's his idea? And one of the ideas here is surely to get the rook over to h6. So you really have to prepare for that move. And here white should have prepared himself for this rook move, and another idea we're going to see shortly with h4. And then if the rook comes to h6, rook to g4 first, and eventually queen to e1, where white can defend this pawn, and white has control of the g file. And I think white's doing okay here. For example, knight to f6, white can keep everything intact by putting eventually his king on h1 and his rook on h2. And he's very solid on the king side here. He's got everything defended. So in the game, white showed a complete lack of danger. And again, like in my first video on the King's Indian pawn structure opening, I want to try to ask you the best move here after what happened. Knight to e2 was played, and the idea of this is to go knight to g1 and defend h3 from there. So if rook h6, knight to g1, black can't break through. Now, in a minute, I will ask you to pause the video and try to find the best move for black. What is the best move for black in this position, starting an amazing sequence of events? So black to play here. What would you play if you're black? Pause the video for as long as you want and try to find the way forwards for black. Really beautiful. And I'll tell you the answer in a minute. Pause now. Well, the next move. Oh, it makes me feel all warm inside. Queen takes h3. Beautiful king hunt. This is one of the, in my opinion, most beautiful king hunts in chess. Now, the idea is we force the white king into the open. Rook to h6 check, and here comes the king into the position. Knight to f6 check. How far did you calculate here? That is the key question. Hopefully you calculated a long way. Now the king can't come to g5 because rook h5. What a checkmate that is. That is actually checkmate. So the king has to keep to the light squares, and look at the king. It's kind of running on the light squares. It's on a roller coaster down on the light squares. It's got h3, g4, f5. And in the game, black actually didn't play the most accurate move here. So in a minute, I will ask you to pause the video yet again. Black to play here. And now, please, pause the video. Try to work out as much as you can. What is the best way for black to continue in this position? He's hunting the king down. What should black play? Pause the video now. Well, in the game, black played knight to d7 because this knight on f6 was clearly in the way, and he wants to bring the rook into the game with ideas. And this was still good, but he missed a simply fantastic idea. He's already given up a queen, and by playing the unbelievably beautiful knight to g4 move, he would have won the game a lot quicker. And again, it shows you that chess can be art, and chess is a beautiful game. And the point is, he wants to simply play rook to f8 checkmate. For example, what can be played? Well, if king takes g4, again, if you can't see the checkmate, pause the video now. But checkmate is played by rook to g8 check. The king comes back to f5. And now we've got rid of the knight on f6. So rook to f6 is checkmate. Stunning. What else can white play after knight to g4? Well, can he go pawn takes g4? No, this does not help, because we go rook to f8, checkmate. Stunning. And if rook takes g4, well, the same thing occurs. We just go rook to f8, checkmate. So knight to g4 is a beautiful idea. Now, the only way that white can try to defend this is by going knight takes f4. And again, I recommend you pause the video here. White is trying to give himself some space, but black is still winning. And again, if you can't see a forcing way to checkmate, look for quieter moves. And there is a checkmate in a beautiful way here. Pause the video now. Well, the best way to win here is by that no forcing moves actually necessarily work here, but the quiet move and the best move here, I believe, if I got my calculations right, is this move, rook to g8. Unbelievable, because you're taking away the white's king squares on the g file, and your threat is still rook to f6 checkmate. So this keeps the threats up here. It's a really stunning idea. Now, the only way to stop rook to f6 checkmate is knight to h5 here. And now we see another stunning move. What can black play here to another? I'll give you a clue. It's another quiet move. Pause the video now. Well, here again, you can just go rook to g6. Now that the knight on f4 is not defending this square anymore, by playing rook to g6, you stop the white king, running away, and you threaten to go rook to f8, checkmate. Really beautiful coordination of first one rook coming there and then the other rook coming there. And the whole idea of these two quiet moves is to get a rook to the f file with checkmate. Simply stunning, in my opinion. And there's no way white can stop rook to f8 or rook to f6 checkmate here. Quite phenomenal. So this is the only thing that Alexander missed in this game. Instead, he did play knight to d7, and we'll have a look at the rest of the game because it was still very beautiful. But it did give white a little bit of a defensive tries with rook to g5. Now, obviously, the last move, knight to g4, importantly, stopped this move, rook to g5, because the knight was blocking the route in. So if you found knight to g4, give yourself a massive pat on the back. I can only just about reach my back. Well done, very nice. But here, the game is still won. For example, rook to f8 check, and now the knight hops back to f6 with check. Only one move, king to f5, and now we see a little bit of dancing with the black knight. I think black was enjoying himself so much here. Imagine if you had this position in a game. You'd be enjoying yourself so much, wouldn't you? You'd just think, well, I'm just going to hop about with my knight for a little bit. Let's do a bit of knight dance. Da 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 da. Okay, right, I've had enough fun now. Time to try to calculate the win. Let's go to the other way. Oh, yes, we can hop over there as well. The hopping knight. Knight takes d5 check. King to g4. Let's come back again. Woohoo, I'm enjoying myself. I'll tell you what, let's go back to g8. Lovely. King to g4. Okay, I can hop back. Oh, I've got to go somewhere else now. No, let's go back to g8. Now, I don't want to have a draw here. Remember, free fold. Okay, time to do something. And by eliminating the one piece that was blocking things up, bishop takes g5. This is now a winning position. Even though white is a queen up, all of his pieces can't help the defense. And black is attacking with every single piece there. King takes g5. What is the correct way to play this? Well, you've got to look for ways to create mating threats here. So again, pause the video if you need to. I mean, there's a number of good ways here, but in the game, rook to f7 was played. Very nice. Idea, rook to g7 and rook to f6, checkmate. And there's not much, I mean, that can be done here. Bishop to h4, only way to try to defend this square. But now the king comes to f6, and let's think of the theme again. Remember, throughout this game, there's been a theme of these rooks dancing. And if you can't see a forced checkmate immediately, keep that dancing rook. You know, the dancing rooks on the G and H file. How do you threaten, at least threaten a checkmate here? Pause the video if you need to. Well, rook on f to g7, very nice way to threaten a checkmate because you're using these dancing rooks. Rook to h6 is checkmate. Only one way to stop that, bishop to g5. And now we eliminate another defender. And again, here, if you can't see a forcing checkmate, how do you use these dancing pieces? Yet again, there's two ways of doing it. Well, one way would have been rook on 5 to g6. That looks like a very strong move to me. And the other way that black chose was knight to f6, bringing in another piece and threatening rook to f5 checkmate. Now, white has to give up another piece, knight to g3, to defend this, but now he's running out of pieces. Rook takes g3, queen takes d6, a desperate try, but now a nice move. The rook simply returns, threatening rook to h6 check, and after queen anywhere check, rook to g8. And white will have to give up his queen for the rook, leaving black with a clearly winning position. I mean, if we go back to the main points of that, I mean, let's go to where he starts this amazing checkmate. After rook to f6, the first thing that white did here, he did a typical beginner's mistake. When your opponent plays a move, the first thing you should do, always look at the move your opponent played and think, why did he do that? Well, it's not just to go rook h6, it's also to play this brilliant queen sack to force the white king into the open. So knight to e2 was a big mistake when black starts his king hunt. And again, if I went a bit fast there, try to pause the video now yet again and see if you can now we've gone through the lines, work out how this game ends. And I say this is a King's Indian defense because it's not necessarily the opening moves, it's the pawn structure. And the pawn structure that we reach, let's just get it on the board, with this typical kind of pawn structure when white goes d5, and that is here, is a pawn structure you will get in the King's Indian defense a lot. White has the space on the queen side, so white tries to make progress on the queen side, but black always tries to rely on the f5 break in these typical positions. So this is another, in my opinion, King's Indian defense kind of game, but a beautiful game. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like the video. Please leave your comments below. Discuss between yourselves. Again, if you enjoy these videos, I hope you do. I will keep doing more for Chess.com. And yeah, just leave a message. I'll try to answer some of the messages you leave below. Thanks for listening to me for so long. If you did, well, if you are listening to me, you did. So that kind of speaks for itself. And yeah, thanks. Basically, thank you for putting up for me for so long. Cheers until next time.